Hey everybody, it's the OMAD Dad. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, a channel that's dedicated to living the OMAD lifestyle or eating just one meal a day. It's been a little while since the last post, but I wanted to do a check-in post today and see how everybody's doing out there in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic crisis, call it whatever you will. I have a few more months added on to my work from home schedule. My job has decided to follow this, the guidance of the governor, and because we deal with children at our school that are under kindergarten age, we are following the school's guidelines, and we are closing for the rest of the school year, but we're all working remotely from home. So hopefully this should, excuse me, free me up some more time to be able to do some more regular posts of these videos, of which I have quite a few topics that are all ready to go. But today what I want to talk about is something that several people have messaged me about, and I've heard people talking on social media about, and that is why it's so difficult to stick to your fasting regimen during this quarantine. Well, I can tell you that we are, as I've said before, in unprecedented times. At least in most of our lifetimes, we've never had to deal with something quite like this. So this is all new for a lot of people, and we're still trying to get our footing and our ground established. We're trying to figure out what the new norm is, seeing as how every few days things seem to change. Things change so rapidly. But I think one of the main reasons why this may be difficult for many of us to stick to our fasting routines, and it could be because of the level of stress that this is putting on every individual. As I've said, just mentioned, and I've said before, people have to find out what the new norm is. People have to either look for new jobs or secure unemployment, or they have to figure out how they're going to do their job remotely from home. My wife and I have that same issue. We have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, and we're trying to care for them at the same time. And so it's very difficult and it's stressful. But one of the things that I think affected me, at least early on with this, and it was trying to keep up with the news, watching the media, and a little bit too much social media as well. What I've found is that with this pandemic, it's very, very similar, at least for the news, it's very similar to the way things were right after 9/11. I remember right after 9/11 happened, for months afterwards, that's all any newscast would talk about. Every other word out of their mouth was terrorism, terrorism, terror, terror, the terrorists. And if you watch any old news clips from that time, you'll see what I'm talking about. And what this does is it triggers the this sort of stress response in the deep recesses of our DNA, and in the reptilian part of our brains. And it gets us scared and afraid. There's these certain buzzwords that we all know what they are, and there's many of them. And it triggers a sort of fight or flight response, which of course produces a lot of cortisol because we're under stress. And when you're under stress like this and you're producing cortisol, not only is that very damaging itself, but those high stress situations, the being in the unknown, uncharted waters, not knowing what's going to happen next, worrying about your survival, that has an effect on you. And some people will tend to use things and revert back to their old coping mechanisms. For some people it could be acting out. For some people it could be aggression. It could be drugs or alcohol. But I'm guessing that if you're watching me right now on this channel, food was probably a trigger, or excuse me, food was probably a coping mechanism for you. At least it was for me. So what do we hear now with the news media? Every other word is lockdown, which is a prison term. We hear quarantine. We hear stay safe. And while a lot of people mean well, What you have to understand is that our news today is a commodity. It's no longer simply going on TV, stating some facts, or TV, radio, or media, whatever it is, stating some facts, and then we're done. It is a commodity because it is on 24/7. So the more they can get you into a state of fear, then the more they know that you're going to continue to watch them. And if you're watching them, you're also going to be watching the people that pay a lot of money to advertise on their channels. And then, of course, there's social media, which, frankly, almost 99.9% of what's posted on social media isn't even actual facts or news at all anyway. I could tell you that when this first started, for example, I used to see all of these pictures of people posting empty shelves over at the grocery store, and they're saying, "Oh my God, it's just a rush, and everything's out of the grocery store, and everything is empty. We're all going to starve." And of course, that just gets people panicking, and so people go out and they buy more. But if you looked at a lot of those pictures and you looked around like the little corner of the shelves or whatnot, you would see a lot of product in the pictures. And I started to get keen to this. And what they would do is they'd show you like a section, for example, they'd say, okay, well, all of the toilet paper is out, or all of the bottled water was out. But what they didn't tell you is that they're not stocking it on the shelves because they're putting it on a pallet to put somewhere else because it's such a popular item. Anyway, my point is that this level of news, this trying to get the fear in you, it's good for a commodity of news, but it's not good for your health. So with this pandemic, getting around to OMAD, what I've done is I've set myself a limit. I allow myself about 10 minutes a day to read my social media posts from friends and different groups that I'm in, and to also check out the news, and that's it. And on some days, I'm not even doing it at all. And this is particularly helpful because in the sense that it doesn't get me all worked up and riled up. A lot of people may think, well, geez, don't you want to know what's going on? Believe me, if the end of the world is going to happen, you're not going to be kept out of the loop. You're going to know about it. Okay? This was a major trigger for me. And by nature, I tend to be a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, and have been ever since I was a young child. But the way that would kind of trigger me, that's a little, I noticed it would trigger this almost like this survival mechanism of, oh my God, where am I going to get food, or oh my God, what's going to happen next, or am I still going to be getting paid, or et cetera, et cetera. And then what this does when it triggers this cortisol response and this stress response from all of this that's happening, you're then going to unconsciously go to some of your old coping mechanisms. And like I've said, if you're watching this channel, it's most likely having to do with food and or drinking they have to deal with your coping mechanisms. So if that's a trigger for you, then don't allow it to be one. Shut that off. You'll be kept in the loop, trust me. Focus on what you have to do. This time, for me, as I've said in another video, I'm looking at it as the silver lining in a dark cloud. I'm hunkering down with my OMAD practice because I just love to. My wife and I, because we used to, we were members of our local YMCA, but now that that's closed down and we don't have a reliable way to work out, we actually bought a cheap treadmill, and now I go and work up, take a walk for about an hour every single day, so I get at least a little bit of exercise in every single day. I've been adding some yoga in about 3 or 4 times a week just to get some stretching in, some movement. I've really stepped up my meditation practice. Again, these are all things I do to make sure I'm doing what I can to be healthy, and I'm not allowing that to become this trigger into my life so that I go back to these old patterns. That's what it's all about, really. If this is uncharted territory, and it's going to take some getting used to it to figure out what this new norm is going to be. But you have to remember that you're the one that's in control. So don't let your emotions get the best of you. Don't go back to eating. Don't say, well, I'm just going to take a little bit. Use the time that you are given right now. Make something of it. Make it count. If you're thinking of starting OMAD, now is absolutely the best time to get into OMAD or intermittent fasting and to cut back. Now is the time for cutting back, getting your health in order. There is no better time. And trust me, even though it seems very stressful and chaotic right out there right now, that is always that chaos. If you look at life and study anything about life at all, that is when real change always happens. Okay, it's order out of chaos. Okay, or chaos and reorganization, whatever you want to call it. To make a quick example, you take a seed. Okay, it has a certain order to it. You take that seed, you plant it in the ground, you give it moisture in the form of water, you get sunlight and heat, and after a while, this entropy builds up into this seed that has that particular order to it, and it builds up and builds up to the point where the chaos is so strong that the seed has no choice but to reorganize at a new level, and eventually the seed becomes the seedling. And then this whole process keeps happening and happening and happening in different forms until now it's a fruit-bearing plant. That's one way of thinking about it. The chaos, as tough as it is, always leads to a reorganization at a higher level for all species and everything on this planet and in this universe. That's just how it works. As Eckhart Tolle once said, nobody reaches enlightenment by staying in their comfort zone. And it's a very true point. We're out of our comfort zones right now. We're finding the new norm. But no matter where you are, whether you're in or out of your comfort zone, you're still in control. You are the one that has to make the decisions. You're the one that is remaining in control. So don't let the stress or the chaos or the news media or social media or your friends who are saying, oh, I heard this or I heard that, don't let that trigger you into doing something that you're going to regret. Remember, you are in control. And most importantly, take this time that we have and make it work for you. And remember, most of all, I am here with you. I have more videos coming out, as I've said before. And if you need somebody to talk through this with you, you know where my email is. It's in the description box. Leave a comment down below. If there's something you haven't seen me do that you want me to go over, I know some of you have requested certain things. I get all of your emails. I get all of your questions. I read them all. I try to respond to them all. Feel free to do that. This is, again, this is uncharted territory. This is all new. This is pushing us out of our comfort zone. It's pushing up our threshold for what we can handle in the world, and it's stressful. But even though that is stressful, even though that is the way things are right now, you are still in control, and you can do this. I know you can do this because we've been doing this together. So remember that. And that is it for me for tonight. I thank you all for being with me. I thank you all for watching this. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week. Very happy OMAD, and be well.